Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's College Essay Pro Chat. I'm Susan Napo, CEO of While Writing Workshop, and today we are talking about supplemental essays. How can we help our students write essays that enhance their applications? This has to do with brainstorming, this has to do with essay reviews, this has to do with all sorts of concepts that hopefully we have taught them during the writing of their initial Common App personal statement. So I'm going to make some assumptions that the student has already written a personal statement, understands what an essay is, why they're writing them, how they fit into the application, because we always say that the Common App personal statement is the teaching essay. It is where we learn about the student. We learn a lot about their willingness and ability to do the work, which is something I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And the student learns the process for writing application essays in general. So if we have used the Common App personal statement in that way as a teaching essay, then we can apply what we have taught and what we have learned when we get to supplements, UCPIQs. So if that is something that you're not already doing, I would highly suggest that you look at your Common App personal statement process, whether you're using our 10 steps or not, and make sure that you are teaching concepts that your students will be able to use as they write their supplements. So let's get started. Got lots of questions here from all sorts of people. If I don't answer your question, you know that you can send me an email, susan@whilewritingworkshop.com. I also want to say a couple quick things. We do these webinars generally the second Wednesday of the month. Next month, October 2025, we will be shifting gears a little bit. We will have a 1 hour webinar, the Taste of CEE, Taste of College Essay Experience. Those of you who have done CEE, who've written an essay with us, tell your friends next month is the Taste of CEE webinar. I do some teaching, I share some resources for free, and I give discounts on our College Essay Experience training for next season. But that's going to be Thursday, October 16th. It is not the usual second Wednesday of the month. Everyone's welcome. And if you're in the partners program, you are going to be talking about supplements and PIQs tomorrow during office hours. That's the topic of the month. So I did want to make that clear for those of you who have written an essay with us, who are in the partners program. You will be going even deeper into this topic tomorrow, or the recording will be available. If you did CEE and you're not in partners and want to be, let me know. And finally, final announcement, we are doing some college essay experience training in the fall. We have a group running right now. We have 2 more groups this fall. We do have a few more spots, and then we'll open it up again in January. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into it. Lots of questions. First question, how to review essays quickly and give concrete actionable feedback. It's a little bit of a topic from last month, but I wanted to address it related to supplements because it gets complicated, right? Lots of essays, lots of things, lots of moving parts. You must be organized. If you don't have a system you're already using, here's the simplest one I can suggest to you. A folder for each school. And inside the folder for each school, either keep drafts or a folder for each essay, if that's how you like to do it. You get to decide how you want the student to stay organized. If you want them to keep all supplements in one document, keep all the supplements. I mean, for one school, great. If you say, no, too much for me, I want the community essay in a file, I want the YS essay in a file, you decide. The best way to do it is to make the organizing system yourself. Create it yourself, have a template, make a copy for your students. So that's what I'm going to say about organization and giving concrete, actionable feedback. Be very specific. Know which phase you are in. Are you in the content phase? Are we generating content? Are you in structure? Are you thinking about how they move through the essay? Or are you already on polish, which is fine details, spelling, punctuation, such things? You might be in more than one phase at once, depending on how many essays they've already written. They may write a first draft that's nearly ready to go, but especially when you're working on new supplements, an essay of a type they've not written before, stay in content first and you can give very specific feedback, the same type of feedback that I encourage you to give on any essay Focus on content first, then structure, then polish, not all at the same time. It's too much. You may notice things. You have to then control yourself from giving all the feedback all at the same time. Ashley says, do you have any tips for dealing with multiple supplemental essays, like George Washington University? I want to help ensure that they are presenting themselves in the strongest way possible. Great question. We look at supplements as a strategic package. I'm going to assume that there's supplements for a school that has a Common App essay. So the first thing I do after a student has finished the Common App essay and we start working on supplements, and I say, okay, let's go back. What do they already know about you? What do they already know about you? This may seem silly, like, why do I need to talk about it, right? Well, let's say we're looking at George Washington University. George Washington has two supplements this year. Has one supplement, I'm sorry, has two options. So here they ask you to choose. And these are intense questions. They want option one, at the George Washington University, our students frequently interact with policymakers and world leaders. These experiences and those of our alumni can shape the future of global affairs. Wow. If you had the power to change the course of history in your community or the world, what would you do and why? Option number one. Option number two, the George Washington University encourages students to think critically and challenge the status quo. Thus, civil discourse is a key characteristic of our community. Describe a time when you engaged others in meaningful dialogue around an issue that was important to you. Did this exchange create change, new perspectives, or deeper relationships? Why do I read these to you? Because here's what I would do when we have a choice, when we give students a choice. And this, Ashley says, I want them to be able to ensure that they're presenting themselves in the strongest way. Start with step number one, understand the prompt. Help them see what the elements are, what the layers are in these prompts. So the first question, our students frequently interact with policymakers, world leaders. They shape the future. If you had the power to change the course of history in your community or the world, so small or big, what would you do and why? So in that question, I'm going to break it down. You could change something, history. You can change history, something that already happened in your community or the world. I'd start by asking, well, what communities are you a part of? I'm trying to help them break it down into the smallest possible pieces. I would do this in writing. I'd have all these questions written down and ask them to look at them. And then I would ask more questions. What would you change? Why? What would you change and why? I want to know not just what you would do differently, but why. Then I would ask them about the second one. Think critically, challenge a status quo, civil discourse. Describe a time when you engaged others in meaningful dialogue around an issue that was important to you. Well, the first question is, have you ever done this? What is an issue that is important to you? It could be anything. It can be anything. They don't have to be world leaders already. So what I'm doing here, I'm doing this super quick, but I would break it down and help them understand the prompt and see which of these questions do they even have an answer to. That's the one they should respond to. And they need to make sure they understand, what am I demonstrating about myself? What am I illustrating about myself? What stories can I tell? In this case, what example can I give to demonstrate that? Same as the Common App personal statement, same as a UCPIQ. What do I need you to know? When you're done reading this, what should you know about me? What kind of person am I? What kind of situations have I been in? Alana says, should BSMD candidates, so students who are Bachelor of Science, Medical, they're looking at the joint Bachelor of Science and MD programs, should they focus their writing on showing a cohesive story centered around their path to medicine or a totally different aspect of themselves? It depends on the program. They are widely variant. Some say, why do you want to study medicine and why do you want to study it here? Others go into great depth about other things. I'm going to say this again and again and again. Answer the prompt. And one of the ways to make sure that students understand the prompt is to encourage them to ask in the admissions department. Find their admissions rep. Ask the question. Find a student. Learn more about the program. They can ask the folks in admissions about the questions. What kind of answers they're going to get depends on the school, depends on the person they talk to. But if the questions ask specifically, why do you want to get an MD and not a fill in the blank degree? Answer that question. If it says, how did you get here? Answer that question. the when I say strategically putting things together, I'm talking more about what will make you a good candidate for this school or this program. And that requires research, understanding the school, the program, the major. So for BSMD, they're very clear in the questions they're asking, and I want my students to answer those questions. I also want them to understand how the responses to those questions fit together and how they fit with the rest of the application. Remember, essays do not stand alone. Essays are part of a strategic package. Lisa says, do you expect students to use a full 10-step process for supplements? If they are unwilling to do that or lack the time, what do you cut out and what do you insist on? I don't insist on anything other than you have to be prepared if you have meetings with me. The 10-step process that we teach is a framework. We go through all 10 steps with the Common App personal statement. That is our teaching essay. I will say that over and over and over and over and over. It is our teaching essay. After that, I don't have to name the steps. I need to know where they are. So, step 1, understand the prompt. Absolutely, 100%, we don't go anywhere without that. Step 2, brainstorm ideas. Brainstorming ideas might mean coming up with things from scratch. It might mean asking the student, how is this prompt similar to or different from others you have already responded to? I want them to brainstorm ideas. I want them to come to their discussion with me, knowing some of what they might write and why. So that's step 2. Step 3, focus on theme. Step 3 is also absolutely, you cannot move on without it. In this case, theme means what am I going to write about and why? For any kind of essay, a YS essay, the GW prompt about changing the world or changing history, a community essay, University of Michigan's new, what kind of leader have you been and what are you going to be in the future? Very complicated question right now. Any essay, any supplement, they need to know what are they going to write about and why. Why? Because I need that as the coach in order to review. Are they hitting the mark? Not is this good? Is this good? It's good if it answers the question and if it stays true to what the student wants to accomplish with it. Those are completely, those are not for discussion. Okay, do we insist? Yes, we insist on that in some way, shape, or form. Then the student writes. At this point, I'm looking at content first. I'm not going to take them through every single exercise, but I will use the exercises, the writing exercises I have taught them while writing the Common App essay. I will have them write outside the essay if they need it. I'll have them try new openings if they need it. For some students, they get it, they write a first draft, they totally get this process, they're fine. I'm looking at tiny little content things. I'm moving to structure and polish right away. So to answer your question, Lisa, no, I'm not going to take them through a 4-week, 10-step process. I am going to follow those steps in concept, and that is as much for me as the coach as it is for the student. But if I say to the student, we're going to stay in content for another draft, they know what I'm talking about because that's language I used when they wrote their first essay. For those of you who are in the Partners Program, those of you who have written an essay with us and have either joined the Partners Program or are considering it, your first year's at a discount. All of this is in your resource library. If you don't know where it is, ask Aaron and Shannon and they will help you. We have structured timelines for supplements. We have guides to writing the UCPIQs based on what we teach about the Common App essay. We have sample pre-work and guidelines for creating your own. So please use the resources you have. So yes, the 10 steps, we follow them in principle for everything we do. But I don't have to take the student step by step by step. We just both need to know where we are. And it helps, especially when we get to starting, making sure they understand the prompt, and when we get to reviews so that I know where we are. Good question. Thank you for asking. Sherry says, how to help students brainstorm ideas for supplements when they're running out of time and energy. I'm going to say it again. Make sure they understand the prompt. When we look at essays as, oh my God, I have 15 to write, it feels completely overwhelming. If we say I have 3 schools I'm working on, start school 1. So this is another thing that we have in our partners materials, but you can create this yourself if you're not in our partners program. We have weekly steps. I mean like stepping, like steps like going up a staircase. Week 1, before week one, the student gets pre-work for the next batch of essays. Week one, we brainstorm ideas and the content draft is due. Week two, we're working on structure and polish. And then week one of school one, they're getting pre-work for school two. So there's every week they're brainstorming ideas, they're writing new drafts, they're revising. I'm paying attention to what I learned about them during the first essay, about their willingness and ability to do the work. I'm going to say it again. Pay attention to what you learned about their willingness and ability to do the work. If you have a student who struggled or with whom you struggled, don't give them too many drafts. They're not going to do it. If their list is too long, you make it clear. You are applying to 6 schools and I can hardly get you to write anything. We have a problem. That's not a college essay problem. That's a scheduling issue. That's a procrastination issue. It's an anxiety issue. That's when you start working with the parents and you start working with the student on real solutions to real problems, because that's not going to change. I can tell you, if you have a kid who struggles, it's not going to change. I wish I could tell you I had a magic trick for kids who are tired. Sometimes we give them a break. Sometimes they finish their Common App personal statement and I say, look, we're going to take a week off. You need to breathe, or you need to start school, or you have a physics test, or it's homecoming next week, or whatever the issue is, because sometimes you can't just push through. It also means, and this is to plan for next year, maybe that Common App personal statement needs to be done sooner, or maybe it doesn't need to be done sooner, but it needs to be done in a more compact timeline so we don't wear them out. All of this is related. These are systems issues. A lot of them we can address. Some of them we can't, and we need to know the difference. Ron says, should students use AI to research their school's thoughts as to how to answer a prompt? Well, this is kind of along the lines of reading books of essays that worked. I don't like those books. Why? Because essays don't work. Essays are part of an application. An application is created by a student. Essays that worked, it's a marketing ploy. I'm sorry. They're from students who went to the school, but the essay didn't do anything. Essays don't leap over a wall by themselves. So looking for types of essays, and there's AI tools out there that'll say, oh, if you want to go to, Columbia, here, essays, if you send us your essay, we'll tell you how it compares with other students who got into Columbia. It's a gimmick. It doesn't, there's no cause and effect. I mean, it is, I guess you could say that there is correlation, but there's not causation, or at least not that has been proven by anyone that I know. So be careful. I would say you could use AI to research the school. It could help you with the Why Us essay, but just as I say, if your research involves asking your sister's boyfriend's cousin about what they love about going to University of Maryland, check your sources. Make sure that you're getting information from places where it is accurate and up to date. So even AI, they could say that there's a course on physics and drawing, and you love physics and drawing, and it turns out that that was a visiting professor who was only there, last winter. You can't take that class. It's not available anymore. So just be careful with what you get and why you get it and how you get it. That's all. Let's see. Amanda says, how best to organize so many supplements for one student? This is where the schedule that I'm talking about comes in. Again, for those of you who are in partners, ask Erin and Shannon. They will help you find that. For those of you who are not, you can do this yourself. Make sure that every week has a goal. So you don't have to I have had daily, like granular schedules for students who wanted to do tons of work all at once because I had tested it with them and made sure that they would get me things every day. If you have a student like that, you can say on Monday we're going to meet, on Tuesday your draft is due, on Wednesday I'm going to respond, on Thursday you're going to revise. You can do that. But don't just do that randomly with any student, because most of them won't. They won't. They just won't. But if you say in week one, we're going to meet, and by Friday, your draft is due, and by Sunday, I'm going to respond, and by week two, you're going to be writing your draft for the next essay. You can do that, and you can pay attention. For a student who isn't going to write multiple drafts, have them do it once, make a few comments, and move on. I know that may sound cavalier, but you can't work harder than they will. It's not a good idea. It's not good for you. It's not good for them. It's not going to make any difference to them. You need to learn how to work with each student, and that will help you when you get to supplements. Um, Becky says, what should students focus on in the new supplements that colleges are asking for? It depends which new supplement. And I go back to step one, understand the prompt. And you, as counselors and independent consultants, if you're not clear on the prompt, call the college. Talk to someone in admission. Say, look, here's a new question. I don't understand it. Not what are you looking for? What should I tell my students to write? But what's the thinking behind this question? You can ask. You don't have to guess. They might tell you, they might not. But you can ask and ask each other. Ask your colleagues, what are you getting? What kind of pre-work are you giving your students? For us, the pre-work is everything. The pre-work is us understanding the prompt and then asking specific questions to help students dig in. I don't say to them, what do you think this means? They don't know. But I might say, hey, this question asks about leadership. And it says, what have you done in the past? What have you done in the past? What does leadership mean? Leadership doesn't mean you have to be the president of the organization. We break it down and break it down and break it down to as tiny pieces as we can. And then we say, well, what examples do you have where you've done this? Have you done this? And we talk about it. So it's not a guessing game. It's a strategic, we're researching inside the kid's head and outside to see what we can find out. Next question. Amy says, how to convince students away from introductory and summarizing conclusion paragraphs and how to get students to get work done on deadline. So this is definitely, it's not specifically a supplemental essay question, but it is relevant, right? Here we are. It's September, guys. This is real. Kids are back in school. Essays are part of their applications. Applications are going to be due in the next couple months. And we've done this enough to look ahead and say some of them are going to have a really hard time getting done. And some of them are going to say introductory, tell you my story, conclusion. Here's what we do for that, especially for supplements and especially for short supplements. I tell them what I'd like them to add and why. So here, I'm going to tell them you don't need to wrap this up with a bow. You're not trying to make a case. And in these, 50 words that you have here, you had this great idea over here, and it's not in your essay. I want you to expand on this piece, and I want you to add a little bit of this, and I want you to get rid of this last two sentences. Some students will do it, and some students won't. That intro and conclusion, it's like a security blanket to them. That has been beat into them since fourth grade when they started writing essays at all. Unfortunately, this is a hard time to get rid of it. They feel like, but I need to tell them what I'm going to tell them, and I need to tell them, and then I need to tell them what I told them, and if I don't, they won't know. I try to reassure them that actually you can just say what you need to say. So I'll tell students, you don't really need this, and I'd like more of this. So I'm giving them, I want more of something, and so I need to take something away. Not, you don't need this is stupid, or this is useless. This is better, this is clearer, this needs more description, or whatever it is. And then I say, you don't need to wrap it up with a bow. You don't need to write an introductory sentence. This is not a letter. This is not a 5-paragraph essay. This is a different thing. And usually it works. And then if they really won't or can't, it's okay. I tried. We give our students opportunities to make editorial decisions. And sometimes they agree with us, and sometimes they don't. And that's okay. A couple of questions came in the Q&A. Feel free to put yours in if you want. Abby says, do you suggest completely finishing one supplement before moving on? How many open loops or essays in progress make sense to have going on at the same time? We think of them in terms of schools. So I might have 3 schools going at the same time. I have learned while they're writing their Common App how much they can handle. And I ask them for the first set of supplements. Let's say they're applying to MIT. They've got lots of questions to answer. Make sure they understand the prompt. I give them pre-work for all of the essays. And then in our discussion, in our brainstorm, I will say, how are you feeling about this? Let's talk through these. You want to come up with ideas for all of them? You want to talk about just a few of them? Let's see how you're feeling about this. We're gauging how much they can handle. So I may break up MIT into two groups, or they might say, I can answer all of these by Thursday. They know. And so I can have four different schools open at the same time because some of them they're just revised, they're making adjustments based on essays they've already written. My question there always is, how is this prompt similar to and different from others you've already answered? That's the understand the prompt step. Oh, that one asked about where I'm going to live. This one asked about my career goals. This one asked about the city I want to live in. This one asked about the college within the university. They're different. They're not all the same. They're not just different lengths of YS essays or different community essays. So, open loops, schools in progress, not essays in progress. That seems to be how we measure it. And there can be three or four going at a time. Um, and so the next question was for UC PIQs, do you have your own brainstorming questions or do you like the one UCs have on their website? We use the UC website as part of our pre-work. So we say the UCs have been very clear about what they're looking for. Read this. And we start with look at your Common App personal statement. Like I said, it's our teaching essay. And I say, which of these PIQs potentially fit with the Common App essay you already wrote? There might be one, there might be four. And then I say, if you were going to use this essay as a base for one of these PIQs, what might you do to it? I do not have them edit it yet. I don't have them change it or do some revision. I say, what might you do? I want them to think. I want them to have a plan. And then we ask them, look at the rest of the UCPIQs. What else do you want them to know about you? We're using the same language and the same process we use to help them write the Common App personal statement. So it's a mix. It's a mix. Noelle says, what is the maximum number of colleges a student should apply to? Great question. Depends on the student. So this is not really the answer to that question. I would say that by the time they've applied to four schools, they have written every kind of essay. They have answered so many prompts. They should be able to apply what they've learned to as many schools as possible. I am of the less is, fewer is better school. I don't think students need to apply to 15 schools, but that's my philosophical choice. And my students come to me with a list. I don't help them decide how many schools to apply to, but it's a good question for your colleagues. I would say, I know that the person who asked that question is an independent. Ask your colleagues, what do they recommend? Why do they recommend it? So it's not just a matter of, there's not just a perfect number. It's why. Why does someone think that 6 is a good number? Why does someone else say 17 is a good number? Why does someone else say they can apply to as many schools as they want, but I will only work on 5 with them? There's lots of reasons. It's a good question. I don't have an exact answer for it. I've got a couple more questions here. Katie says, how to make supplementals engaging? I don't know. How to make them engaging. Make sure students are applying to schools they're interested in. Help them understand the prompts. I know I've said that 1,000 times. I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. Otherwise, they're just throwing stuff at the wall. Maybe I should write about this. Maybe I should tell them this. Maybe I should answer like this. Make sure they feel like they're telling a real story to real people. Remind them real people are reading these and they're looking at them comprehensively along with everything else in your application package. Don't just pick schools. Pick schools that are a good fit for you and apply to those schools with intention. Catherine says, how do you help students who are going through the steps of doing the research, brainstorm, etc., but still come up short in showing genuine interest in the college? Well, it may be that it's not a good fit. Maybe they don't really have anything to say. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's a school where they're probably going to get in. Their grades and scores and everything else, they're qualified. They just need to answer the question. It's not going to matter. Maybe it's a very competitive school. And the only reason they want to go there is because it's a really cool school or it's really highly ranked and they don't have a good reason. That's okay. I'm not saying we should let them trip themselves up, but if they don't really have a lot to say, we can't change that. We need to really what you want to do if you're a comprehensive full service IEC or you're a school counselor, more important than helping them brainstorm ideas for perfect essays, make sure that they have a good list. A good list will lead to better applications because there are good reasons. So, final thing about lists and YS essays and the research. I highly suggest that you do that before they get to the essays. Rather than research being part of the essay writing task, it's part of the list building task. Give them specific questions. Whether those schools have YS essays or not, you will help them when they get to supplements if they've really thought about why they want to go there, why it's a good fit for them, and how they're going to approach their full application. So I'm going to repeat something I said at the beginning if you missed it. Our next session, instead of a regular pro chat, I have a taste of college essay experience webinar. It tells you about college essay experience training, give you some freebies and a discount and all kinds of good stuff. So if you've already done CEE, tell your friends. If you haven't done it, I encourage you to come. It will not be the second Wednesday of the month. It will be Thursday, October 16th, also at 1 o'clock Eastern. If you're, like I said a couple times, if you're in the partners program, this is a good time to go look at the resource library. If you did CEE and you're not in partners, $250 for your first year. Sign up, let us know. If you have more questions about supplements or anything else, send me an email, Susan@wowwritingworkshop.com. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.